Hello, Michael.
Hello, Gregor.
Mike Ulanski. Uh, he is the guitarist and lead vocalist of our band, Fat Old Greyhounds. And he is, I'd say, my main collaborator, someone who I have excellent idea journeys with.
Indeed.
Whenever we get together, it seems like we're always inventing things, having fun with ideas. So I thought it'd be good to have a chat with Mike about what creativity means for him. We're at the lovely, what's this place called? Le Bon Jardin in Urla Turkiye. Good. So, Mike.
Yes, sir.
What does creativity mean to you?
Yeah, man. I think that it has meant different things throughout my life, right? Because you learn more as you go. But I'd say, basically, my current definition is like problem solving. Yeah, like, but not in the way I don't know. Yeah, problem solving. I used to think of it as this like sort of mystic thing. And it's not to say that it doesn't have magic or isn't full of like surprises and mystery, but I think the more I've learned about it is it's more biological and more natural than I think we view it as in society normally. So I think about it like I used to think creativity was over here in music or like in art or like it was like now's the creative time, we're playing Legos or we're drawing it, and then when you go to work or when you're doing other stuff, it's a that's non-creative time, and there's like this division. But I mean, I work in design as a education designer, and like all I literally do is creative problem solving all day. How do you develop a system or develop an experience that targets the right things and that is engaging and that accomplishes goals? And even though that's not a song that we're putting out, it taxes the same parts of the brain. It uses the same things. And I think that it took me almost surprisingly long to figure that out, but I think it's really interesting because like you do a long day at work doing that, it's hard to then go and do music or songs because you've been using that for 6 to 8 hours.
So it's the same thing. So there isn't a creative work and a creative play. It's all kind of one mechanism.
Yeah, I think it's like that. I think it's like a part of the brain, right? You have your like logic brain, you have your automatic processes brains, all that. And I think that like creativity is just one of those natural instinctual processes that have helped us survive, right? I mean, you often look at like the colonization nations, like and like, why did they build boats so quick? Well, you have like these warm weather cultures. It's because they had 4 seasons. And so when winter's coming, you have to figure out how the fuck to survive. Yep. And that takes creativity. You have to look around. You have to say, okay, well, what do I do when the snow falls, right?
So creativity is something which has evolved out of the need to solve problems in general.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I mean, I think it goes beyond. Actually, you could even look at like art, I think, in that way, because I think that art solves the problem of like understanding ourselves, right?
So obviously our relationship is highly based on creative collaboration.
Yes.
Is that something you sort of worked a lot with in the past, or is that something new? Is that a different type of creativity for you? Is it positive? Is it more difficult?
I think that creative partnership is almost the only way I ever get to a production. Like I'm constantly, my brain's bouncing off the walls, ADD, whatever you want to call it. Like my brain is constantly set to like overthinking about things, designing things, looking at things, thinking about what it could be, what it couldn't be. And that's great. But without the most successful creative projects I've ever produced have always been with collaboration, and specifically with like a creative partner. When I was in Dubai, I started playing some gigs, whatever, those were whatever. But when we started the band, it was because I had one guy who, you have to reach, I think, a certain level of trust to get to, I mean, everything deepens and deepens as you go.
It's interesting, yeah.
But like, I find that personally, having someone to check yourself against, having someone to like almost write for, or to like try to impress, like, hey man, what do you think of this idea? Someone that you trust ideas or creativity enough to say like good or bad, because like there's just blanket creativity, sure, but like I think once you're producing something that is intentional, that you say, you want to make a song,
working towards the same thing.
Once you're working towards something, I did like one solo album way back in the day, and I was like 19. It's kind of cringe. Like, it's fine, it's got some good chords and shit, but without creative partnership, I feel like I only get halfway or three-quarters of the way there. And so I think it's my most valued thing, and I think that's why we've ended up,
I like the way we work, and I feel like you get into the flow, and then it's like a little like arc or a little parabola or something, and then you kind of lose maybe trust in that, and it's really helpful to have these spontaneous periods, and then you check, and that person's like, no, this is exactly what you're saying, and then you go in again, and then you're kind of in the flow together. You're encouraging each other, and I find like it's quite amusing, actually, like in the true sense of the word, to write songs, or just even concept songs. Like, we almost do a lot more like, oh, this would be an amazing song or chat.
Mary Preppins, right?
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is like, I think that's also the value of creative partnership. So like, I think the thing that I constantly revolve in is like permission, and it's this silly idea. Like, I think partners help you break out of this self-imposed, or sometimes society imposed, or whatever the fuck, it could be anything, could block you, and often it's yourself, but maybe it's influenced by things. And so like, when you have someone, you say, hey, check out this stupid idea, or like, or you're just having the chat, having some drinks, and you come up with a silly thing,
and you start almost like you want to make the other person like amused, and it goes by back and forth, and then it kind of almost like there's this crescendo of like silliness, and then that's when these, like, for me, spontaneous ideas will come to the front of my mind. We'll both say something, and we'll both just burst out laughing. And then that's your song concept.
And then you're like, what? Well, like, obviously we like it. And I think that's the other thing too that I've learned throughout my life, is like, when you are focusing that intention of like, I'm trying to make you laugh, or make you, or like you riff, like, that's also how I think you get to more authenticity. Some people, like a Frank Turner, and I don't know Frank Turner's process, but like, there are some people who are solo artists and things who are just brilliant songwriters, and it seems like they're doing it on their own. Maybe they're not, whatever. But like, I find that I can only reach that most genuine piece, that most genuine product, when it's done through that, right? Because it's like, even like, not only do we agree, but like, you say something that twists a whole different direction. And that's almost my favorite part, is like, when like I think I have a direction, and then it's like, you go, what about this? And it's like, oh shit. But that's really hard to do. I think
well, that's your ideas are give me things, and then I'll feed that back to you, and you'll check it. And, it just goes round and round.
And I think that's, to me, that I'm not good at, like, sort of we'll call it the production side of creativity without that. Like, I can only get so far, or I'll put myself in a box. And like, so there's something about, you get permission from the other person when they're like, oh yeah, okay, tell me more, or oh dude, how about this idea, or this idea, or they add on to it, or they change it. And like, as beautiful as it is, I think that is something that is also really well, I find that there are people that I find that very easy to do with, and then I find that there's people that I can't do that with, right?
An artist, Moxa, that I interviewed last week, he was talking about this idea of self-inflicted conditioning. And I think it's really nice to have someone with like, maybe we have very different backgrounds, but very similar backgrounds. So it almost gives us like, it gives us even more permission. I'm not insane here.
Or even if it is insane, it's an insanity that I can ride with. Or like, it's the permission to go insane, right? It's the permission to like go to a place, and that's where you get to those authentic pieces, right? Because like, the best art is honest, right? Or the best sort of art product is steeped in honesty,
or appropriate to itself at very least.
Exactly. And so like, even if you're writing the silliest song in the world, like Mary Preppins, like, we put a lot of work into our silliest songs, you know what I mean? Like, because
it's because we become obsessed with like making it real. We're like, we really want to hear us playing that. We know how it sounds, but you want to make sure we can do it.
Yeah.
Like,
and I think what's cool, that's what's cool about music, especially, is like there's like these layers where there's the writing, there's the concept, and like that's the chat, that's the lyrics, that's the whatever. But then like, and we talk about it in terms of like 3D chess or whatever. But then it's like, okay, but the riffs or the chords or the beat and the pauses and the breaks, all of those things have to be appropriate for the vibe, the feeling, right? So if you're writing something silly, you know, maybe it's fun to contrast it with like, I mean, like Down on the Farm is heavy as shit, but like we like the Do No Harma, Down on the Farm.
Yeah, there's,
like
there's a lot of humor in it. And I think that's appropriate because we're very, as I say, very amused.
Yeah, and I've always been drawn to like, I think satire is one of the highest forms of art. I think that, I mean, punk rock, no surprise, but like I really do believe. I mean, you read Mark Twain and these things because we are at our core story-based beings. That's why religions are religions. That's why you know, we have folk tales. That's why we have parables. Our brains, I mean, I could get into the ridiculous psychology.
Thinking stories, thinking sentences.
It gives us the framework to understand the lesson, right? And this is true in education, right? This is part of my educational design stuff. It's like you can, I mean, all the knowledge about how to do math exists in a textbook. Most people can't just pick up a textbook, read the rules, and then do it. There needs to be something that you can connect with that makes sense to you, for you to, you know, like
you need an example.
Yeah, you need an example. You need a metaphor. You need an analogy. You need a story, and that's just like how we are as a species. And I mean, it's how we pass down our history. It's how we, you know, all of that stuff, especially before the written word. And then like once the written word came, I think that just exploded it even further because it allowed you to create that in a way that was like not static, but like, okay, here's this version.
Capturable.
Yeah, capturable, right? And so then like
that's really interesting. So we think in stories and we write in stories because that's literally how we used to pass information on. It's something that maybe evolved.
Yeah, and like it's a part of educational psychology. Like you literally, I mean, that's why teaching is an art and a science. Like that's why education is difficult. That's why, like, you know, we can't just go download information and then be, you know, an expert, because it requires some kind of framework of understanding to put you in a comfortable place. So it's like, here's a really hard concept to understand. I mean, it's the same thing in music, right? So we want to talk about something even as dark as like the opioid crisis in America. Like, sure, we could just be like, here are the facts and stats, the Sackler family and this, that, and the other. But like then it gets preachy and it turns people off, and I don't like that shit either, right? But if you create a character, you create
or one person that this, you know, this huge problem affected.
Exactly, because like, I mean, that's why. Okay, so kind of a weird jump, but like when I was at the Holocaust Museum, you know, 6 million Jews. That is our brains cannot comprehend stats. But when I saw a single pair of shoes, and you're like, that makes you cry, because that is immediately palpable. That's immediately connected to you. And then once you have that, then you can scale that up in your mind, right? But if you're only dealing in the large concept, if you're only, and I think this is why the partnership works, right? These things usually start as this idea, like, hey, let's write a song called Mary Preppins, or hey, wouldn't it be funny if, and it's like, okay, now we have our headline, right? We have our thesis statement, but it's like, it requires that back and forth. It requires drilling into that, riffing, going back and forth to like find out how to make that land for someone else, you know?
Yeah, I always talk about like the limitations and freedom in an idea, and like as soon as you have this idea, like Mary Poppins. By the way, this is an idea of a sort of like theatrical musical, you know, Mary Poppins, but it's basically about the end of the world.
And preppers and all the weird, you know, goofy stuff is silly idea, but like has real.
So that as soon as we did that, all of us, our bassist Matt included, we started just dropping these ridiculous ideas, these lines, and we were, you know, like miming, and it just went out of control over 5 minutes. Because as soon as you've got this new room to jump around it,
it's like discovering a new place, right? And that's why I think like, okay, and again back to like this idea of collaboration. Like if you go and find, let's pretend like we're kids, right? You go find a playground. Fuck yeah, playgrounds are awesome. But if you're by yourself, like, okay, I can go down the slide, I can swing the swings, I can climb on the thing. But if we're together, we can make that thing a pirate ship.
Absolutely.
we can set up a game, and that's what kids do, right? That's what creativity is. That's
cops and robbers. You need like two
it
levels of
becomes
engagement.
interaction, and it becomes. I mean, I think that's again like why creativity isn't just a thing for art, or it's a thing that we naturally do because that's how we perceive the world. That's how we make sense of the world, so to speak, right? It's that through that, and we're even when someone's. I mean, even now, like when I'm trying to describe this to you, I'm constantly pulling examples. I'm constantly pulling things that are related to it, so that and multiple examples, right? That's the other thing too, is because everyone approaches a piece of art. I mean, you know this because you're an abstract painter, right? So it's not like I can look at your thing and go, "Oh, it's a beautiful picture of an apple." Mm-hmm. And I think that's why, I mean, admittedly, for part of my life, I didn't understand abstract art because I didn't understand that what you're looking at isn't. It's not so much about the triangle; it's about the mood, the vibe, it's the emotion, and it's capturing an emotion, and it's abstract. So in order to get into that, you have to sort of get into conversation with the artist, so to speak. Not literally, but like you can't look at it as a painting, as a static thing, but as it's almost like a song. There's motion there. Right?
There's an idea, and you think about how I can carry this out, and then you have the canvases like the realm, your ability. What is your creativity for, or who is it for, or what is the, do you think about the delivery? Do you think about, is there a kind of result? Is it process? Is it for yourself?
I think it's, well, I mean, I think at the very first level, it's for my survival. I mean, and I think that's true for everybody. I think people are more in tune with that or not. You meet people who are like, "Oh, I'm not a creative person." So you absolutely are. Even
everyone's creative.
Yeah. I mean, literally, even like something as simple as like you have a TV dinner and you decide to put a different sauce on it or something. Like, I know that's like a silly example, but I mean, like the fact that you're taking something and adding to it to create a new experience, even for yourself.
It's artful living.
Yeah. Right. So like, I think that at a base level, in that sort of genetic, the biological sense, it's creativity starts as just one of the things we use to survive, right? Same thing with logic or being able to make an inference or look at a situation and think about like what could happen, and even making an inference, right? Even looking at a street and going like, does this seem safe? Like part of that is creative because you are imagining what the potential threats could be, or you're imagining.
That's why imagination exists.
Exactly, right? I think that's where it like started, and then once we created society and got to the point where we had luxury. I mean, even hunters gatherers with paint and stuff, but like there's like, but why, right? So creativity, I think, has evolved beyond, or maybe always was beyond, just that survival piece, and then becomes this thing where it is trying to help us understand what existence means, what it is to exist, right? That's why.
So it's a way of kind of wrestling with the intangible or the difficult to grasp concepts. So it is about, it's a mechanism for yourself.
Yeah,
it's a tool.
Exactly, and I think that when you take that into like the production of art, then what you're doing is it's a service to others, and then it becomes something that you are providing so that other people who may not have not the creativity but like they don't play guitar, they don't paint, they don't write, they don't whatever, that's fine. The whole world can't be fucking punk guitar players because then we wouldn't have like food and science and shit, right?
Absolutely.
But that is such an important thing to share, and it's why thousands of people will go to a Beatles show or name the band and be arm in arm with strangers and singing, right? I mean, like that's why I always say like our shows are church to me. Like it is, like I think
you say that regularly. And when we're talking about, we never really talk about a song as like a product or a result or even a finished thing necessarily, but it's always about the show, never about the record.
Yeah, because it's I think that art, I mean, for me specifically in music, I mean, I guess even in like writing and stuff, it's like when you decide to make a thing with those feelings, when you decide like, hey, this idea or this experience or this feeling is strong enough or impactful enough or won't get out of my fucking head or is so powerful that you have to do something with it, like then once you're creating something for it, then you have a responsibility to then apply sort of the discipline of of art, right? Or the discipline of creativity. So it's like, okay, I felt this thing. Now if this is important enough to share, then it's my job or our jobs or the artist's job to create it in a way that other people can connect to it.
Is that maybe what craft is?
Yeah, yeah, right. Yeah, art and craft, right? And I think that's
like commitment to the medium.
Yeah,
affecting the medium.
Exactly, because like, not to invalidate like, you know, less than professional songs, or you know what I'm saying, like not like new young kid songs that I think is beautiful, but like
the ideas have identical validity.
Yeah, the ideas
but maybe they need polished in terms of their delivery.
Yeah,
it's not good or bad. It's just being delivered correctly
more refined,
or effectively.
It's more connectable. It's more palatable, more you know.
So what's effective for you? What's an effective song?
There's a NoFX song called "Falling in Love," and it's like, it starts off as just blasting drum beat and this like lo-fi thing. It's a super simple song, and it's literally, and I think it's one of the most beautiful love songs ever. And it's a very simple plot where it's essentially a couple is on a plane that's crashing. You know, it's blast.
That's a good premise.
Yeah, it's like blast.
It's a good room.
A surgeon mask, and it's fucking beautiful and tragic.
Okay.
I mean, it's but like, I'm, you know, you hear them crying, you know, and like, so like when it's effective, you know, I think that's why I'm drawn to punk rock too, is because it's not to. I mean, I also love.
It doesn't take itself too seriously, right?
Well, it doesn't. It gets to the point quicker. I think, you know what I mean, or it makes its point, or it can make its point just really more directly, even if it's, you know, metaphorical or whatever. It's, I don't know. I just find that the aggression of that, it's kind of like,
that's an interesting way of thinking about it. So perhaps some genres or bands or records or whatever are more direct, but a genre is more direct. So maybe a Bach piece is quite emotional, but you know, the idea is quite vague. With punk, it's like it's telling you what it's about, and it's like giving you it in a tight 1.5 minute package.
Exactly. It's the pair of shoes versus the stats. You know what I mean? And I don't want to like I love a good blues song, but I think that there's a level of wankiness or cheesiness that I'm always constantly afraid of when creating. Like, probably almost too much, because like I don't like all killer no filler, right? Like I don't want to ever waste my audience's time. I don't ever want to put something in a song that's self-serving. I only want it to serve, because like I've already been served by it, right? I've already had these thoughts and ideas, and like I've already been through this thing, and I've already thought about it in a million ways, and only one of those is going to end up in a song or part of it. And that's not to say that punk songs like have one meaning, and that when you listen to it, you can be right or wrong about it. I think that's actually also one of the coolest parts about it. It's like the more specific you get, the more you're able to allow everyone else to create their own meaning.
Is there a difference between creativity and art? Because what it seems like you're saying to me is there's creativity, and then there's things that need to be delivered, and it's your responsibility to deliver that idea effectively.
Yes. Yeah, because I don't think all art is creative, because you can, I mean, we're walking down the street and there are art pieces, little ceramic pieces that have clearly been AI printed or mass produced in China, and that's
decorative.
It's and like, no shade, but like,
it allows people to be creative with their home, and that's groovy.
Sure, like if you like it, it inspires you, fan-fucking-tastic. But I think there's a big difference. I mean, again, I think creativity is a naturally existing biological process, the same way pattern recognition or logic or any of the things that we've had to help us survive and evolve to this state. And that is in us. And just like any skill, logic, math, whatever thing, if you know, the more you use it or practice it, the better you can tune it. But that's still just inside you. And I think art.
So where's the jump? Yeah.
I think art is the process of taking those things and sharing them.
Why do you feel the need to do that, or do you think that's another intangible?
I have a perfect
internal thing.
I have a perfect analogy for that. So I was reading Mel Brooks's autobiography, and he's hugely into musicals, right? And like musical theater, I'm here and there with it. I love theater. I love music. I don't always love musical theater, but he was describing what he loved about it when he was getting started, and he goes, when you're writing a musical, you have dialogue until the point that the emotion gets so strong that speaking is no longer an option. It's such a strong emotion that you have to put it into a song. And I found that it gave me a whole new appreciation for the genre. Because like, you can watch a musical and be like, oh my God, why are they doing another fucking song? Like, we just had another song. And it can get a little egregious. It feels like it feels superfluous, right? But then when you view it as like, oh, really? I
think, without the song.
Yeah, but I think that's the jump, right? I think that like it kind of helped me. That is the jump, right? It's like when an experience or a thought or an idea becomes so powerful that you can't just hold it in anymore.
So it's bursting out.
It's bursting out of you, right? I mean, and it needs to be a painting or a song or a book or a whatever.
This brings us to what we were talking about on the terrace a few weeks ago, where perhaps a piece of art is, yes, you want people to think about this idea, but perhaps the real compulsion is you want to demonstrate, you want to show that such creativity exists. You know, it's almost as raw as that in my mind. I'm like, oh my God, I had such a powerful idea. It's not the idea itself, it's the emotion of having the idea.
Yeah. Like, and something I learned playing country music in Dubai, which when we started, it was strictly a weird niche project where I'm like, oh, there's a market for it. Maybe it'll work. Maybe it won't. I fully expected it to be something where American expats would come up to us and maybe we can corner a thing and get a couple gigs and make some money. I would have British, South African, Czechoslovakian people come up to us and share these stories that showed me how, like, it's not even about my idea or the artist's idea at all.
It's not like about country western music.
It's not about it's about what their experiences was, and country specifically has a lot of sort of nostalgia built in. It's a very story based kind of folksy thing, right? And like, these people would come up to me from places around the world that I didn't think had ever heard of, like Waylon Jennings or Johnny Cash, and they'd be like, this reminded me of my granddad when we went fishing, and he would play Waylon songs, and it was so beautiful because like I'm sitting there thinking like, fucking country music. I'm a clown, just I got the hat and the boots, just trying to make some money.
Sell it.
But these cats are like, dude, that meant. But they were all different, and to a South African, that was their punk rock, right? Because apartheid, having American things was illegal. So like, to have a Johnny Cash LP was literally an illegal offense. And I think that's what's awesome about making art tangible. In fact, it's almost like once you've made it, it's no longer yours. Like, you made. Okay, so it's weird. It's an arc, right? You have this vague idea, this headline, this thing, this experience. Maybe it's so powerful that it kind of shoots out. Sometimes our songs, like, I'll call you up like, dude, I just wrote the whole thing.
Almost done.
It's there. We just got to like work, tighten screws. But anyways, you have this thing, like you said, and it's so powerful, and then it bursts. You create it. You do your best to make it as specific as possible, right? This is a song about two people on a plane crashing. But it's what you're really conveying is a universal truth, right? Love, or love and tragedy, or that, like, even in
something
the midst of
which
tragedy,
is relatable.
Something that's relatable, right? And you have to make it super specific so that when someone sees it, it gives them the connection point, the shoes. But like, what I felt about those shoes, it made me think of my grandparents, or it made me think of my experiences. And now all of a sudden, this art and I have a relationship that's intimate, right? And it has nothing to, maybe it has nothing to do with what you intended when you wrote the song or painted the painting, but that doesn't matter, right? Like you said, it's not so much about the idea that you had, but that you had the idea, that you experienced something.
And I think that power transfers onto other people, and then they'll relate to it, and then they'll share it again. And you're playing it in Dubai, talking to someone,
Exactly. I think, especially in my younger years, it's like you write a song, and because in order to make it connectable, you have to make it, I don't want to say have to, like, again, I don't want to box things in, but the more...
There's a compulsion to share, and you're an intelligent person, so you're going to think, all right, this is a good delivery, or it's an appropriate delivery.
Yeah, does this convey the thing that I'm trying to convey, right? And in order to do that, I think, well, it obviously has to be honest and genuine, and to get to that, you have to really dig deep and bounce ideas, and how do you feel in this situation, and you kind of combine those things, blah blah blah, and then you find the right words and you switch the lyrics around. Sometimes it's just this word, or and those little, that's the craft, right? Like, getting those details down. But the funny part, I think, is like, once you do that and you're like, oh, I have the perfect love song, I have the perfect song about this thing, great, but then it doesn't. But then like you're not in charge though of what people feel when they hear it. I think the beauty is that they feel something.
Absolutely.
You know, and hopefully, you know, connects with them in a way that. Grazie. And I think that was difficult at first when I was younger.
That was going to be my next question. Like, how's your creative process? If you could describe it in you know, in an easy way, how's it changed?
So it's always scattered, right? People always go, "Oh, how do you write songs? How do you?" It's like you just observe and stay open, and like I think so. I think like the real trick to being a creative person, which is I don't like that, but you know what I mean. But someone who's practicing
Outwardly creative in an obviously creative way.
Yeah, I think that like at the simplest way thing is like uh, staying active in your creativity, right? So like whatever that means, whether that means doing crossword puzzles every day to keep your mind limber, doodling in your notebook, like whatever it is. And like I feel a little fortunate because I feel like whether it's the ADD or some mix of whatever I have, like I've constantly always been like thinking in 4 or 5 different directions. And so like you know, every in class I'm always doodling, always every almost to my own detriment sometimes, but like
you're producing.
it's just because your brain is always staying creative. So that way, when those musical moments hit and you can no longer just speak it and it bursts out of you and it requires a song or book or painting or whatever, your creative sort of engine, like the muscle, it has been active, and so it's you can get to that production point quicker, and you're more open to as an experience happens or as a feeling happens or as whatever the thing is inspiring you happens, you're able to more quickly or more aptly or you're more open to the idea of turning that into something creative, like using that creativity to turn it into art or whatever.
So that's a wisdom you've gained.
Yeah, I'd say, yeah. Like, you know, if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. You know what I mean? Because like, I think that's the truth is like, people go, how do you write songs? It's like, well, sometimes a fucking riff, you know, I hear a little diddle or like sometimes white noise turns into this like thing and I'm like, oh, what? And then, but you have to be willing to, you have to be open to it. Right. And I think
is it something you're receiving? Is it, are you passive in a way, or is it,
both, right? I mean, there have been times when like literally I'll be like laying in bed and like you just hear this droning thing and blah blah blah, and it kind of reminds you of something and blah blah blah. And next thing you know, you have this riff idea, and then like maybe that idea in your mind makes you kind of feel a thing. You're like, oh yeah, and that kind of. And next thing you know, you have a riff, right? And that's cool. Sometimes I was sitting there watching an all hands from this company that I shall remain unnamed, a giant evil company, and like the way this motherfucker was talking to these employees, and I'm just like, it was so infuriating. There was a musical moment where like I can't.
You told me about it straight away. You're like, I'm really really pissed off, and I've written this song.
Yeah, you make me want to do a murder, right? And like it is, and I think in a lot of ways too. You ask me like, who's it for? Like in those moments, especially, it's for me to keep my mental health.
A catharsis.
It's a catharsis. Like again, that musical metaphor thing is so. It's like, okay, I'm going through my life, but it's like sometimes when something hits you so hard, it's like if I didn't have that, I'd almost be afraid of. I would probably turn into destruction, either self-destruction or I would go destroy things outwardly.
I'm really interested in this. So like you're first, maybe you have a riff in your head, but you go to lyrics quite quickly. But like, so is the writing the catharsis, or are you writing with the idea of screaming those lyrics on stage? So it's almost like a kind of, you're looking forward to letting it out, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. I'd say I think it's both. I think it's like the writing. I think the craft. I think the writing, the lyrics, and getting the right breaks and beats, and like when do we like, you know, does it rise up and then punch you, or do we just start ripping, or does it stay fucking melt? You know, all those little things are emotional sort of levers to pull, right? Those are creating the emotional sort of part of it, right? With our songs, with punk rock in general, I think that it is, for me, it lives to be performed, because that for me is the church part, where it's like we are exchanging energy, and like you don't have to necessarily even know or even agree with what I'm saying, but if you feel the thing that I felt, that thing.
No, painting is exactly the same.
Yeah.
Like, painting is for the experience.
Yeah, it has to be shared.
It's not about the painting in the book or the painting on the tiny screen.
Right.
Like, it's about, well, many people would argue that it's about this energy field.
And I think this is where it gets tricky craft-wise, because again, we say like you have to get super specific to make it palatable, but then you have to let go of that specificity when sharing it because it's no longer yours, it's ours. And you can't dictate that. And then you also have to, we just said, what were we just saying?
Talking about the energy field between
that energy flow, right? Like this is the feeling I had. And like maybe I got this enraged feeling about this injustice that I saw in this specific context.
Yeah.
But if I can take that and translate it into like a universal truth of like, I can capture that feeling and then reproduce it for you, whatever you are mad about, whatever is inside
whichever
of you,
fucked up country you live in.
Yeah, whatever that thing is fucking with you, like if you can connect to that and release it at that show, then that is I think the most beautiful thing in the world. I think that is like, I've been arm in arm with strangers at like NoFX shows where I've never met this motherfucker, but we're screaming lyrics together, and like I don't know what his story is, he doesn't know what mine is, but we both know that this is something that we feel at a visceral human fucking level, right?
Yeah.
And I think for me that is why I will always play punk rock. I think I need to play music live because that is what I think some people get out of church or like meditation or whatever. Is like it's their way of like community, of sharing and saying like, I've felt angry like this. Yeah. I've felt happy like this. I've felt this weird melancholy mixed with this thing, and like, oh man, thank you for giving me a way to like express that, because I don't play guitar or I don't paint or I don't whatever. And I think that's why that's why we make art, and I think that's why we consume art.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the problem is like a lot of people think about certain art forms as like entertainment, which it is, but entertainment as escape, as distraction, where actually it's a form of acceptance because you're feeling the same things with strangers.
Yeah. But I think that,
or feeling the same thing as the artist, feeling a similar emotion as the poet, Yeah.
But I think escapism is an okay feeling too. I mean, like sometimes you just need to get out of yourself, right?
Yeah.
And so I think like, and again, everything requires balance, but like, you're right. I mean, it's also okay to write silly ass songs like Mary Poppins or even sillier songs, right? I mean, like, because sometimes you feel silly, and I think that one of the most important things that art as like the product can do is give that permission. Like you know what I'm saying? And so, but like, again, how do I give myself permission to be fully silly and go through the trouble of like learning a riff and putting the drums and do all these things and recording it and producing it and playing it in front of people? It's a lot of work. I mean, there's a lot of work in that craft. There's time. It's time we could be doing anything else with our lives, but we do that not because it's going to make us money, not because it's going to make us famous, whatever, but because
we are open to people giving us money.
Listen, that's not you feel free. But that's not the motivator. I think that's probably where most things, I think that's where the division between art and commodity is, right? Like once you've created a genre or a thing, like, okay, let's say punk rock, right? That's born from a genuine angst and an explosion of youth and counterculture, blah 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 blah, and then it spreads, and like, but now you have this thing, punk rock, right? And then it evolves, and it's Mohawks, it's not Mohawks, it's folk punk, it's Irish punk, it's and that's fine. But then you have Hot Topic selling T-shirts to say, mass-produced T-shirts that say, "Don't hate me because I'm an individual." It's like, well, and that's where it goes from like a genuine creation of art to a commodification. And I think that is always the challenge. The bummer is that I think that
you got a sea of commodity you have to kind of swim through to try and make your art come out now. There's so much mass production.
Yeah, for sure. But I think that like the reason that stuff kind of gets on my nerves isn't because like, I mean, whatever, like fine, but like it's because I think that you're diluting the masses. Like you're making it harder for the masses to connect to something more real, just to make a buck. And when that's the motivation, it's not to share a feeling. It's not because the emotion became so large that you had to sing it. It's because you wanted to make money. And
that's destructive, which is actually the opposite of creative.
Exactly. That's when it ceases to be art. Yeah, creativity and construction, and it becomes destruction, and it destroys, I think, the palette of the masses. And that's not to blame the masses. Like, it's hard living. I'm privileged to be able to play music with you. To privileged to have the money and the time and the effort and whatever, the space to do it. So
and the inspiration.
Yeah, and the inspiration and the brain and the upbringing and all the stuff that my parents did, and Legos and all that. I'm super privileged for that. So that's where I think we have a responsibility to practice our craft, to make sure that, and it's not going to be for everybody. Like, the things I feel aren't shared with everyone. It's not going to, and that's fine. And I think that's the difference, right? It's like, I'm not trying to impress. Oh, yeah, so I was going to say before. So you have to get all specific, then you have to let it go. And you also have to, you can't open the window and make love to the world, right? That's why I need that creative partner or partners to say, we approve of this, right? We've crafted this well. And then you have to really detach yourself from the result or the reaction. Not, you know what I mean? Like, you can't let that be your barometer for success. You have to just make it as honest as possible and let it go.
Yeah, and feel right about
and make it. And then hopefully when you perform it, people will connect. And I've found that the more I work with creative partners, the more time we put into it, the more effort we put into it, the more permission we give ourselves to explore, the more honest it is, and therefore the more even the weirdest ones, become, and it become connected, and people dig it, and they may not even know why. They just go, oh, I feel this, oh, I like your songs, I feel this.
But they're tapping into our energy in the studio, and one of our rules is that we just got to be having fun. We're in it for the band practice.
Exactly.
We're in it for hanging out and playing music.
Yeah.
And how do we do that best? We write songs that are hilarious and fun to us to play, and then that immediately transfers onto the crowd.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that you see this a lot, like in local band scenes. And I feel bad because there's a lot of talented people who, and I understand I used to want to be a rock star. And I even tasted a bit of it. But you see these bands that are so focused on getting the result of I want to be famous, or I want to be big, or I want all these likes and hits, or I need this. And listen, if you want to make a life out of music, there is a certain amount of having to deal with that. And that's a fucking hard road to walk. And I'm really glad that we're not walking that right now. But
because we don't really care. We had our...
Yeah. But it's just like when you're trying to find a partner, in love or whatever, the more you try, the more you're fucking up. But when you are just being your authentic self, doing the things you love to do, trying to figure out who you are and be true to that, you end up running into people who
connection comes immediately.
Exactly. And you may not, and it's but that's hard, right? It's almost like growing a beard. It's there's this weird middle piece where you're it looks bad and crappy, but you just have to listen, I want this thing, and it's going to be a thing. And so it's the paradox of art, right? You can get good at it, you can sit there and do all this stuff, but if you're trying to do it for these wrong reasons, people will sniff it out. And you can get people to get into it for a while, but they're not going to have the same reaction, not the way they react to certain things, right? The kids aren't going to circle pit the first time you start playing. People go, oh, it's a good band, it's a good song, they can recognize it. It's oh yeah, I can see a painting, oh, nice picture.
Yeah.
But is it but that's not the kind of shit where people are going, dude, that moved me, or oh man, I fucking felt that, or and
the closer you get to yourself, to the true intention of it, I think the easier it is to pass that over. Yeah,
exactly. And that's the hardest part, because being honest with yourself is fucking difficult.
Yeah.
Right. And that's why art is so hard. That's why writing, specifically books and things, right? Because you're exposing yourself.